What type of family were you born into? You see, each of us had been born into a particular type of family, a particular country, a particular culture, a particular faith or religion, with certain brothers and certain sisters and grandparents and aunties and uncles. But why were we born into a particular family? Have you ever thought about that for a moment? You see, nothing happens by chance. Everything serves a purpose, and this is what we appreciate in conscious consciousness, is things happen for a reason. And why do things happen for a reason? Because there's no such thing as coincidence, by chance or accident. Even you being born have to be the fastest of sperm swimmers. Yes, you've got to be the fastest, because you're competing against millions of others just to fertilise an egg. Interesting point. We thought about that. So nothing happens by chance. There's a reason. There's a reason why things happen, and we need to try to understand why our lives are different to other people's lives. You see, some people are born into a very typical middle class family. Some people live in poverty, live on the streets, live in a very basic tin hut. Other people live in palaces and big mansions, and obviously there's lots in between. Are those who are living in the big houses and mansions, are they so privileged? And if so, why? Why would they be more privileged than other people? And if I live in a slum or I live in poverty, why would I be so disadvantaged? Interesting thought, isn't it? You see, this is why it helps us to appreciate that everything is planned, because there'll be no sense. Life isn't just random. Everything in life happens for a reason. We learn this through plants. Plants are a specific shape. They regenerate. They go through cycles of birth and death and reseeding and fruiting and flowering. Everything happens for a reason in nature, and no different to our lives. So today I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 45. And in this verse, the Lord is revealing to us about why we are born into a particular family. And this is what I want to share with you, because nothing, as I was saying before, is random. We don't have to feel, oh, we're so disadvantaged, or oh, we're so rich and so affluent. But some people do. And I want you to understand, for a moment, there's no reason to be disappointed with whatever you'll be born into, because it's happening for a reason. Find out more. So we are born into a family for a reason. You see, we have lessons to learn in life. We have karma from our past and our past lives. We also have desires. And maybe the Lord is just trying to teach us something. Just say for instance you're born into a very poor family of poverty. Maybe in your past life you're very, very greedy and too stingy that you didn't share anything with anyone else. Maybe the Lord is trying to teach you, actually, maybe if you've got nothing, maybe you have better values in life. Interesting? And obviously there's a lot of people who fall in between it, and that's why there's a large middle class area. But there's a whole range of different people, different situations. But where we're getting to on this particular verse is, Lord is saying that if we're born into a particular family of aristocracy, or a mercantile family, or a very spiritualized family, it actually serves a very important reason. It is the latter stages of our pathway back to Godhead, our pathway to perfection. At a certain stage, the Lord may put us into a family that is one of those categories, either aristocracy, mercantile, or very spiritualized, like a Brahmana family. Because he wants you to have lessons based on being able to learn from certain teachers and acharyas, and maybe that type of family is going to encourage it. So if you're born into a Brahminic family, then maybe that Brahminic family might be the one who's going to share some wisdom and some enlightenment for you. It could be that you're born into aristocracy, where you don't need to worry about money, and therefore you don't have to worry about working every day, and therefore you can spend more time studying in life. So there's lots of different reasons to why we're born in a particular lifestyle and a family life and a different quality of life. And in each case, it's a lesson of one form or another. But in this particular verse, we're looking at the reason why people are being born into more fortunate situations at the latter stages of their own realization, to discover more about what their purpose of life and who they are. And that means that they have access to the right type of association and the ability to study more and more and more, and go deeper and deeper and deeper, and gain a better understanding. I'm going to explain in this final video exactly what I mean, and let's see where it goes. Saying in the last video, there's a reason why we're born into a specific family now. You're beginning to understand this. But we have to be very, very, very careful, because if we get caught up in the Maya mind as to why we're born into this family, we might not utilize this birth for a reason. And this is so important to understand. We're at a very important stage of our life if we've been born into these type of families. And this is where we have to be very careful, because if, for instance, you're born into a very aristocratic family, and rather utilizing your time and energy and your love to be devotional to the Lord and spend more time studying, you get caught up in the money, Lakshmi, 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 and get totally distracted. Very, 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 very important. And similarly, if you're born into a Brahmanic family, you have to be very, very careful of your ego. You see, I meet a lot of visitors here in the Mandir who come to ISKCON Vrindavan, who are born into Brahmanic families, and they feel that they are of a very high privilege. And in one regard they are, but are they practicing? Are they following in the lines of their grandparents and great-parents and great-grandparents? The likelihood they're not anymore. And I experienced this. I experienced it recently with one particular Prabhu. He was a family man, he was a father. He must have been in his 50s, 60s. And he was telling me that his great-grandfather was an amazing preacher. Amazing preacher. And I said, you being a Brahmanic, are you following in his footsteps? He says, no. I'm Brahmanic, and therefore I belong to this family and I have this heritage. And then he goes on to tell me that he has a car dealership. A car dealership where he sells very expensive cars, Mercedes. And then I'm starting to question my mind is, how can one say that I'm in a Brahmanic family, I have this heritage, I am very privileged, yet they are in the total commercial material world? There doesn't seem to be a balance here. So therefore we have to be very, very careful that our false ego doesn't get in our way and cause us to perceive ourselves differently to how the Lord had planned for us. Because everyone has been born into a particular family for a reason, so that they can develop this education, this knowledge, as I call it, Lord Kṛṣṇa's University of Life and Love, to discover more about who they are, what their purpose is, and how they can find their pathway to perfection. And this is ultimately what we need to do. We need to find the right way forward and utilize the help that the Lord gives us. This is why it's so important that we have our gurus, our acharyas, and pure devotees around us in order to keep us on the straight and narrow, to help guide us. Particularly also if we're in these more affluent families where our perception can be like I'm superior than everyone else, and therefore there's a tendency not to listen or be aware of what's going on right in front of their faces. So I want to finish up on this point of, are you aware of where you fit into life? What type of family you're born into? Maybe you've got a better understanding now of why you're being born into this particular family. But just because you are in a certain status in life at this moment in time, whether it's the most poverty or the most aristocracy and lots of money, you're where the Lord has planned you to be. Just go through this praise, go through this life by being devotional and serving the Lord, and He will carry you forward with a helping hand and make sure that you climb up the ladder to whatever status or position you're meant to be in for the right reason. And that's when you have this innate love for the Lord, to serve him selflessly and not to serve our own needs, our own habits, our own desires, our own ego, or I should say false ego. So, where are you in this life? Do you realise now maybe there's something more to your life? Maybe something more to explore? Let me know. Hare Krishna.